Billionaire Mindset, helping you build the mindset for success. Like this video and comment, I am on the path to success in the comment section to set your intention for success.
So the body's a protein-producing machine. Every single cell in your body except red blood cells makes proteins. Muscle cells make muscle proteins, actin and myosin. Skin cells make skin proteins, collagen and elastin. Your stomach cells make stomach proteins called enzymes. Your immune system makes immune proteins called antibodies or immunoglobulins. Your eye cells make eye proteins called keratin. So your body's a protein-producing machine. And in order for those cells to make proteins, a gene has to be regulated. So then they used to say genes create disease. Lie. It's an absolute lie. There's a very small percentage, about 5 to 1% of the people on the planet are born with a true genetic condition like type 1 diabetes. The other 95 to 99% is created from lifestyle or behaviors. Two identical twins sharing the same genome. One dies at 52, the other one dies at 88. Well, what happened there? It was the reaction to the environment that caused their genes to be switched on or upregulated to make a healthy protein, or downregulated to make a cheaper protein. And it turns out that when you're living in stress and living in survival, you're living in emergency mode, and that's not a time for growth and repair. That's a time to mobilize all the body's energy, all its resources from some endangered situation, real or imagined, in their life. So if you're living in emergency mode for an extended period of time, and you keep signaling that gene, well, my goodness, it makes sense then that over time, the gene's going to begin to wear out, just like taking a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. Sooner or later, you're going to start making a cheaper protein. So the expression of proteins literally is the expression of life. Is it possible then to signal the gene ahead of the environment? The answer is absolutely yes. Because if a person's waiting for their wealth to feel abundance, if they're waiting for their health to feel wholeness and gratitude, if they're waiting for their new relationship to feel love, they're living by the old model of reality of cause and effect, waiting for something out there to change to make them feel better, and here, take away their lack or emptiness. But the moment the person embraces the emotion ahead of the event, if they understood what they were doing and why they were doing it, then if the environment signals the gene, and it does, and the end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion, when you embrace the emotion ahead of the experience, you're signaling the gene ahead of the environment. And if genes make proteins, and proteins are responsible for the structure and function of your body, you begin to become that very person. So it's not our wealth, it's not our health, it's not our new relationships, it's not the things we accumulate, it's who we become. So then the more you become familiar with how you feel in changing that state of being, the easier it will be for you to do it with your eyes open as well as your eyes closed. And if you go back to the old state of being, there's a good probability that your pain or your condition will come back. So there's this kind of waltz that goes on when people are learning how to heal and change. They take a few steps forward and then a few steps back, and then 3 steps forward and only 1 step back. And they got to practice self-regulating. They got to practice what they're paying attention to, what they're unconscious of. And if you stay with it for a long enough period of time, all of a sudden now the person reaches a point, we've measured what happens, where their chemistry changes so dramatically that they're literally in love with life. Now, imagine what happens when oxytocin is released in the quantities that we see. Oxytocin signals nitric oxide. Nitric oxide signals a chemical called endothelial-derived relaxing factor. And that's a big word or set of words that just means a chemical that signals the arteries in your heart to literally expand. And when they expand, you're getting more blood flow in there. And just like when your sexual organs are aroused and there's blood flow in there, now with the same intensity, you're going to feel it right in your heart, and it's going to be way bigger. And now the person's heart is wide open. Now, so here's the question. The person feels those emotions. Do you think they're going to want to judge somebody else in that moment? You think they're going to want to hold a grudge? They're not going to try to forgive. They're going to feel so amazing. They're not going to want to lose this feeling, and they're just going to say, I forgive you. I'm not going to give this feeling up because of you. Now that's the side effect of true transformation. The side effect is a greater level of consciousness. The side effect is a greater skill set in life. And I think that when you start getting good at this, then all the things you thought you wanted, you no longer want, because when you're creating more brain and heart coherence, you feel more whole. And the more whole you feel, the less you live in lack. So how could you want many things if you feel whole? It feels like you already have them. And that's actually when you start to see those wonderful miracles, those synchronicities, those serendipities, those coincidences happening in person. Those are experiences coming to them. That's the field dropping breadcrumbs saying, keep going, keep going. And there's a synchronization between that person's energy and their future, and the side effect of that are signs. And that's when it gets to be exciting, because every sign does what? It creates an enthusiasm, an excitement. You're kind of going, hey, there's another sign, I'm going to go do it again. So now you're not going, oh, I have to meditate today. And every synchronicity creates that elevated emotion, and you use that energy for the next creation, and people climb out of their lives, climb out of their past. So then when you become it, nobody can take that away from you. In fact, you know that you know how to do it, or you know that you are it. And an abundant person doesn't say, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, or a healthy person doesn't say, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm healthy. They don't say that, they are it. Yeah. So then most people have just been fooled by their senses, because their 5% of their conscious mind is holding the intent, but their body is habituated into a predictable future, or emotionally conditioned into the past, and they're saying, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, or I'm happy, and the body's going, you're miserable, you're unhappy. That thought can't even make it past the brainstem to the body. So then, teaching people how to self-regulate, they have no idea when they start changing their emotional states, the amount of biological and energetic changes that take place within them and all around them. So then develop that skill and get really good at this. Then for the most part, you wouldn't be so interested in so many material things. You would be interested in facing off with yourself every day and asking, what is it that stands in the way between me and my future? What is it that stands in the way between me and my connection to the quantum field? I think that's the real question. So we express 1.5% of our DNA. The other 98.5% is called junk DNA. And that 1.5%, that's 23,688 genes we express. We have 140,000 proteins that make up the physical body. How could you have more proteins than genes? It should be 1-to-1, because on one gene, you can have thousands of variations depending on the signal. So I hypothesize that other 98.5% has to be signaled by electromagnetism, that the receptor sites on the outside of the cells are hundreds of times more sensitive to energy or electromagnetism than they are to chemistry. Chemistry is a downward causation. So imagine the person elevating their energetic state. Well, they are going to literally select and instruct new genes, and those genes may be the ones that create more significant and faster changes in the body. I mean, how do you explain a person in one meditation that's blind that comes out as now seen? Like, what happened there? What about the stroke patient who was paralyzed for years, is now moving a limb? I mean, it's not matter that emits a field. That's an illusion. It's the field that creates matter. So then the fundamental question is, if you change the field, will you change matter? It's none of your business to change the tumor. That's the outcropping, that's the outpicturing of changing the pattern in the field. So getting people really good at this, and the closer they can connect to that unified field, the more their consciousness is connected to that consciousness, the shorter amount of time it'll take. And the person now is literally in a whole nother world. They're in another dimension. That's why the pineal gland is called the third eye, because it's a profound vision. Now, once the autonomic nervous system switches on and it goes into gamma brainwave patterns, that radio receiver has tiny little calcite crystals, stacked rhombohedrons that are on top of each other. And those crystals begin to shimmer. They begin to oscillate. And now the radio receiver is activated. And now all you got to do is keep this mechanism suppressed and tune into frequencies. And all those frequencies carry information. And when the brain latches on to a frequency, the pineal gland acts as a transducer. And a transducer is no different than a TV antenna that takes one form of energy, frequency, and turns it into, or transduces it into imagery. And the pineal gland begins to release upgraded versions of melatonin. Melatonin already causes us to dream, but now, you're gonna really dream. It already causes us to relax, but now you're gonna make a benzodiazepine. You are gonna chill way out. You are no longer gonna be in survival. The melatonin is already an antioxidant, but you're gonna make two of the most powerful antioxidants known to man. Anti-cancer, anti-aging, anti-heart disease, anti-stroke, anti-neurodegenerative, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, 2 molecules. Release the same chemical in the brain that hibernating animals produce. No sex drive, no appetite, no preoccupation with the outer environment. That means you move out of survival, the body goes into stasis. The body can dream for as long as you want. And now, all of a sudden, you start to release the same chemical found in electric eels. What is that? The nervous system is going to become electrically activated. The amplitudes of energy are going to go up in the brain. There's going to be a profound firing. And then you make that one amazing chemical called dimethyltryptamine. And that begins to switch on. And what happens is you no longer move through space to experience time. You move through times. And you experience dimensions or spaces. And the biggest lie that we've ever been told is that we're linear beings living a linear life. We are dimensional beings living a dimensional life. And when the doors of dimension open to you, and you get a glimpse of how big this really is, you are going to care less about politics. You're going to care less about who's famous and who isn't, because you're going to realize you're all of that and more. And all of a sudden now, we have people that have switched this system, this latent system on, and they have a greater understanding of who they really are. And it all of a sudden shows that there is no past life. They're all happening now. I don't know how else to say that. And when we activate this latent system, the information that's being translated into profound imagery, that experience, that rich experience enriches the brain. Now you're laying down circuits for something that has nothing to do with the material world, and that experience produces an emotion, but the emotion is not going to be guilt or shame or unworthiness or fear. The emotion is going to be ecstasy or bliss. And the stronger the emotion you feel, the more you're going to be paying attention to those pictures in your mind. And literally, you're going to begin to rewire your brain for the mystical. And when you open your eyes and you come back to your senses, you're going to see a broader spectrum of reality. You're going to begin to see what has always existed, but you didn't have the circuits in place to experience them, because we don't see things how they are. We see things how we are. So now the person all of a sudden opens their eyes, and I've had this happen. You see colors and light like you've never seen before. You hear. Everything's melodious. Everything's unified. It's the smell, the taste, the feeling of everything is just enhanced. And when you have that experience and you begin to perceive in a whole different way, and you connect to that intelligence, you will see that energy, that intelligence in every human being, in everything around you, and you'll feel more connected and less separate. And I think that's why we're here.
Billionaire Mindset, helping you build the mindset for success. Be sure to subscribe with notifications switched on to help you consistently build a mindset for success.